This short talk will cover trust building and trust management. A major problem in the study of trust has been that although all words carry multiple meanings to various listeners, abstract words such as trust have even more associative meanings than most. Confidence, reliance, and faith are often used interchangeably with the word trust. Each of these words is also fraught with abstract associations. And I'm sure that you have already seen this in our study of integrated project delivery. There's a lot of talk of trust, but often it's hard to actually understand what that is. There are three types of trust. One is interpersonal trust, and this can be intergroup or interorganizational. Then we have dispositional trust and institutional trust. Trust is a psychological state comprising the intention to accept vulnerability based upon positive expectations of the intentions or behaviors of others. Process of trust. So now we're going to go through some diagrams and some models that try to draw out what trust might look like if you had to make a diagram of it. So here you can see that in the beginning stages of a relationship, when you're building trust, you probably start out with neither trust nor distrust. As you build that relationship and you build that trust, you start to gain a high amount of trust. As you can see, maintaining trust is oftentimes, in this diagram, it sort of shows that it does have its ups and downs. But there's definitely a fallout when there is destroyed trust. So when something happens in a relationship where trust is lost, it's very difficult to get it back. This shows how trust in general terms on the left, so there's a disposition to trust, is really, it can go through institution-based trust, it can go through beliefs, it can go through intentions, and then it can lead to trust-related behavior. In the middle is where trust in the situation or the structures, and so those structures are part of our communities, our culture, in the building industry. This shows that factors of perceived trustworthiness, and so this is probably where in the beginning of a relationship, obviously you would have the ability to trust someone if you know they had the ability, the benevolence, and the integrity. But that really, those things can contribute to trust. But really, you're not going to end up with a lot of trust until there is some sort of risk taking or there is a perceived risk that the relationship overcomes. Form expectations about the future of the collaboration based on reputation or past behavior or contract and agreements. So that's sort of where a lot of these relationships start out. They may have enough trust, be willing to be vulnerable and take a risk to initiate the collaboration. So that's where also a lot of these projects start. It's important that they aim for realistic but successful outcomes. So obviously you need to start small in order to build that trust. But then once you do that, then you can reinforce trusting attitudes throughout the relationships and you can gain underpinnings for more ambitious collaborations later. A lot of the collaborations that we talk about in this class will begin in this way. Here's another diagram of what trust might look like. So you can see at the bottom is where you really start the trust and you take small risks together and you experience higher levels of trust. And the more that you work up in this diagram, the more risk you're able to take on or you're willing to take on together because you do start to trust each other. You can see that when untrustworthy behavior happens on the right, you can see that that actually pushes you further down this trust level. This one is very similar. So the only way to build trust is to, in these examples, is to take on more risks so that you can depend and you can trust on someone more. And here are some other examples. So the higher you get up the trust index, the higher risk capacity your relationship has. When there's a lot of trust, It can lead to excellent group performance, high trustee predictability, low transactional cost. You can do things at a high speed, and you have a high personal well-being. Ralph Emerson said, "Trust men and they will be true to you. Treat them greatly and they will show themselves great." And then these are some additional references that you're welcome to look up to start to understand trust.